judgment and my greed to push me to do something that I should not have done. I had to go really low so that I could go higher again. And that real estate investment trust ultimately bought 7,700 of my units. We were able to generate substantial profits doing this business model. Selling is a mistake. I ended up becoming not the greatest person. Guys, Mark here. We are back at Shapiro TV, and we are going to talk about how I lost $1 billion on a real estate transaction and how I allowed my judgment and my greed to push me to do something that I should not have done from a long-term perspective. We've been in this business since 1983. I bought my first deal going into my junior year in college at Central Connecticut State University, that's CCSU. I was able to take that property and buy more and more and more. And then in the early 90s, when the savings and loan crisis happened, they created a company called the Resolution Trust, the RTC. Took over all of these assets. One of my partners, who we own some stuff in Texas, came to me and said, look, we're gonna go out to the RTC office in Texas, was in Houston, and we went to the office there and we started buying deals from the RTC. And we bulked ourselves up to about 10,000 units. Now, it wasn't just all from the RTC, it was all over the place. But in early 1997, I was approached to sell a portion of my portfolio. They actually wanted to buy the whole portfolio by a real estate investment trust. And that real estate investment trust ultimately bought 7,700 of my units. So I sold $7,700 units, okay? I was 37 at the time, and I thought that I wanted to be wealthy, extremely wealthy. Now, maybe that, to most people, that wasn't a great deal of wealth, but what I made was close to about $140 million. But here is the biggest mistake that I made. I allowed my own greed, I allowed the money that I made, and I allowed all that to go to my head. That's the first thing. And that has nothing to do with real estate. I ended up becoming not the greatest person. I became arrogant. I thought that I was 5'5", but I was really 6'2". I thought that I was better, but guess what? You're not. When you take a shit, it smells. Just remember that. Same thing as everybody else. Candidly, that destroyed my marriage, and I had to go really low so that I could go higher again. But here is the rub. Here is where today those units would be worth. We paid an average of about $5,000 a door for the 7,700 units, and we made somewhere north of those units, somewhere in the 21 to 22 net a unit. And what is that in profit? Because we made a little over $40 million. So after all the costs and taxes, that's what I ended up making. And on this, if I today had sold them for an average of $120,000 a unit, I think I technically lost about $700 million by not keeping them today. So 924. So we lost a little bit more than that. So that was the big mistake. But here is the real rub, is we could have just continued to refinance the assets and recapitalize them and take those proceeds and buy more. So today, instead of having X number of units, we would have had 3 times the amount of units. And then it wouldn't have mattered because we could have peeled off a few. Now, these units were 80s and 70s construction, so they had a lot of deferred maintenance. We did a lot of work. We were fortunate enough, some of the deals we didn't have to do a lot of work to, and some of the deals actually did eventually cash flow and do very well. And we did refinance along the way, because when we bought them, we used the government's money from the RTC. By the way, they would finance your deals, they would finance your rehab, but we were able to generate substantial profits doing this business model. Selling is a mistake. What you need to do is you need to own them forever. And in one of my videos, we talked about generational wealth. You need to keep on pushing that down the road. So you're kicking the can down the road. When you have enough equity, you can refinance that equity and buy another deal, and another, and another, and another. So next time you're thinking of selling, I want you to reconsider, think about what it looks like to refinance it. Let's go!